Now that is how you start off a video, even if it does have nothing to do with anything. Hey everyone, this is Syntax, and today we're going to be taking an updated look at the rapid teleportation mechanic. About a month ago I put out a video that explained how you could use random number generator devices as the middleman to successfully rapidly teleport the player. Turns out there is a much more efficient and reliable method to this, so that's what this video is going to be about. Shout out to Twin for bringing this to my attention because it wouldn't have even crossed my mind, so yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, it turns out that instead of random number generator devices as your middleman device, you can actually use player reference devices, and it's a lot more efficient and reliable. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. First thing you always want to do, of course, when doing rapid teleportation is grab yourself a sequencer. Now, depending, of course, how many times you want them to teleport, this will be infinite, 16, 8, just make sure it's relative to whatever map you're playing. Your tempo is going to be how fast the player is teleporting between positions, so again, this is going to vary quite drastically. You're probably going to want to have a signal be sent to a channel to start this, but I'm just going to be jumping on it because it'll be easier. Anyway, mine is on a tempo of 50 and it repeats 8 times, so that's what we're working with. Next thing you want to do is grab yourself a couple of triggers and set them up as follows. The settings for the trigger are actually pretty simple. Just make sure it can be triggered by sequencers and an infinite amount of times. It sends every one trigger. There is no delay or reset delay on it. It's visible in game so the sequencer can see it, and of course, when triggered, transmit on is sending on a channel. Now, I'm going to be teleporting 4 times, so I have 4 of these set up, and they're all on different channels. You can see they're on channel 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's everything for this section. Now, this is where our middleman player reference device comes in, so go ahead and grab however many triggers you place down. You want to grab that many player reference devices. I'm just going to do 1 for now because I'll copy them later. So, the settings for this are unsurprisingly pretty simple. All of this really doesn't matter. I just have the hologram turned on, by the way, so you can see it in game. All of this really doesn't matter except for a few specific channel activations. There's no stats to track, there's nothing like that. What's important is these 3 specific settings. All of our player reference devices are going to have the same register player when receiving from channel. So if you're making an adventure map and the player pushes a button that activates a channel in that map, just register them on all of your player reference devices. Now, we're going to have this activate when receiving from the same channels that our triggers are on. So if you remember, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these will activate when receiving from 1, 2, 3, and 4. You then want to have them send a signal on the next available channel, which for us would be 5. So this is going to activate when receiving from 1, which is that trigger, and then it's going to transmit on 5. And then you're going to take this and copy it 3 more times, or however many more times you need to, and make sure they correspond with their little channels. I've now copied this 4 times. They are on channels 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 7, and 4 and 8. And the reason we're having these send on the next available channels is because this is the channel we'll be using to teleport. I've actually already set up 2 of these. You can set up the settings however you need. Just make sure none of this stuff is turned on and you can face the player in teleporter direction, and you're going to teleport here when the player register devices are activated. So if you remember, this activates when receiving from 1, and when activated transmit on 5. Our teleporter is going to teleport to when receiving from 5. Same thing with this teleporter. It's the exact same settings, except this is going to be 6, our next one's going to be 7, our next one's going to be 8, etc, etc, etc. There's also this button out here that sends on channel 9 when I click it, so I'm just registering myself to all the player reference devices. Anyway, that's everything. The sequencers hit all of the triggers activate all of the player reference devices, and then when they're activated, they send a signal to let you teleport to those different teleporters. But yeah, if you set all of that up correctly, you should have something that looks like this. So as you can see, I've started the game. The holograms currently aren't visible because I am not registered to those player register devices, but as soon as I interact with this, it sends a signal on channel 9, and now I am registered to all the devices. Anyway, now that that's all set up, pretend that that's some interaction earlier in my adventure map, but when I activate this sequencer, you will see that I get, well, rapidly teleported to all of the different teleporters. Oh yeah, also you probably want to set your teleporters to face you in the relative direction, because if you try to look away, it's just going to teleport you back to where you were looking, so make sure you do that. But yeah, rapid teleportation, done easily and efficiently and effectively, so go crazy. Anyway guys, there you have it. That is an updated look at the newest way to rapidly teleport. This mechanic isn't exactly very applicable in a lot of maps, and it's really not going to be used all that often, but it is a cool trick to have up your sleeve if you want to have like this really interesting animation. You won't see this in any maps but adventure maps or horror maps, maps where there's like cutscenes and whatnot. It's really good for stuff like that if you can load in all the props beforehand, but otherwise, yeah, it's just a pretty cool trick. It's also what allows for things like this. Yeah, the head shaking in Mannequin Warehouse. It's cool for stuff like that. But yeah, anyway guys, I do hope this video helped you out, and yeah, this has been Syntax. Later.